DawgNation, what's up, everybody? I'm Jeff Sentell. We are back in the friendly confines of the Woodstock home office right now. DawgNation, guys, we are working for you today. Before the Hedges, brought to you by Kroger. Technical difficulties, I'm sure you've heard about them with the big show with Brandon Adams, DawgNation Daily. So what we're trying to do in our small little Before the Hedges world is to make do and to make sure, what's that saying they have in show business? The show must go on. So the show on Wednesday night, Georgia recruiting, the show must go on. And folks, look at this. Hold on a second. Do you guys realize what, like somebody was saying, like Jeff, somebody really nice said, they I always when I go back to games, everybody says really nice things. Hey, I like the show. Hey, blah, 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 blah. Kaylee Mansell's great addition, blah, 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 blah. But one of the things somebody said was, Jeff, I'll need some recruiting. I need some recruiting. I need my recruiting Jones. I need my recruiting fix. And now here we are in the full gear of the season, and they want to know, when are we going to get some recruiting talk? What's going on with recruiting? Well, we've shook the recruiting tree, and lo and behold, there's some recruiting news to talk about tonight. First and foremost, welcome everybody. This program is brought to you by Kroger. Hope everybody's doing great. Alan Verbonic, Philip Overstreet, Justin Sisk ×2, Jerry Popham, Damon Smith, Kevin Cook, Doghouse Lawn Care, Jacob O'Neill. Folks, I'm just going to jump right into it. Do you guys know the DawgNation Recruiting Central? This is a commitment watch week. Do you guys know about Chris Cole out of Salem, Virginia, actually Roanoke, Virginia, Salem High School? He is set to make his decision on Sunday. This past Saturday, he just went and visited USC. This weekend, he's going to take an official visit to Tennessee. And then on Sunday afternoon, the future Dr. Cole is going to make his decision. I really think the decision is probably going to come down to maybe USC, Virginia Tech, Miami, Georgia, Tennessee. I really think Georgia, Tennessee might be the principals here. I think USC made a good push, but one of the things I think the Chris Cole decision is going to come down to academics, because he wants to be a physician. He wants to be a doctor one day. He wants to work in the medical field. So I think an academic fit along with a development fit might be the best piece for it there. And I got to say, the Dogs have a very strong shot there with Chris Cole. Now, anything can happen in this day and age. Anything can happen with NIL, and anything can happen with just organically. Chris Cole could be up in Knoxville. He could see a great weekend as they take on Austin Peay. And he could just maybe he just feels it in his gut that Tennessee is where he needs to be. That having been said, I think he already knows that Georgia is a place that he can thrive as well. Glenn Schumann has recruited him expertly, as he always does. And that, Chris Cole right there, a decision coming. This is a week where a major Georgia target in Chris Cole is going to come off the board. And I think it would be nice. I think everybody out there would like to say, hey, man, Dog's got another one, because that's only going to happen about 3 or 4 more times this year, probably. Maybe 4 more times this year. So something to think about there. One of the things we're going to do, let me give you a quick overview of our show. We're going to kind of be like a little old school here. We're going to be kind of guerrilla style a little bit, kind of bare bones a little bit. We won't have our video package this week. It was going to be a good one with 5-star defensive tackle Elijah Griffin, but we're going to discuss Elijah Griffin. I got a chance to speak with him on Friday night, interact with him for a good bit, meet him, his family, some of his coaches. I've got a really good take on Elijah Griffith. That will be one of the big 5. We're going to talk about the freshman report. You guys remember that story I'd always write each and every week after Georgia played, how the freshmen did? Well, we're going to have a condensed version here inside Before the Hedges. That's one of the big 5. We're going to talk about the other big commitment decision coming up later this month. Do you guys know what's going on with that? Do you guys know that one? Extra bonus points here on your Before the Hedges scorecard. If you can go ahead and be Karnak the Magnificent and predict which is the other player with a commitment decision forthcoming for DawgNation to really get the ears up, really pay close attention to. We're also going to talk about this past game. We got a freshman report coming. Like I said, this freshman report coming up. But here's what I want to do in kind of my quick 5. I want to make sure. I want to see how smart you guys are. I want to see how smart I can hear, how smart you guys are. Hopefully you guys can hear me. I see some people that are showing up in the comments that they can't hear me. Give me a thumbs up if you guys can hear me. Everything's going great with the program. I'm sitting here just throwing darts left and right, making sure we got some information pipeline flowing. So I just want to make sure you guys are aware of what's going on. Let's see. I see some hands up. I see some fists up. Yep, great. Thanks, guys. Steve Rogers, Philip Overstreet, Jay Stripes. Thank you very much on all that. All right. I want to see how smart you guys are. We're going to play a little bit. Remember when we used to do DawgNation Before the Hedges trivia? I'm going to have fun with you guys. I'm going to start out with our quick five. It's a fun little game I'm going to play. I want to see how well you know the incoming freshman. So let's start out right now with who's number 91. Can you tell me who's number 91 out there? I'm going to have my eyes on this restream comment stream right there. If you can tell me who the first one to tell me who number 91 is, gets a DawgNation Before the Hedges bone. Jacob O'Neill, thank you. Ross Durham, I think Nykar's playing like a 5-star receiver. Actually, I'm going to go down and see him as well. This weekend, I'm going to watch Lee County travel to Colquitt County and Moultrie. But who's number 91? You guys got to know your dogs. Who's number 91 right now? He was actually the only freshman starter for the Dogs on Saturday against UT Martin. Drum roll, please. Haven't seen an answer yet. I cannot believe I've stumped the crowd here on a Wednesday night on Before the Hedges, brought to you by Kroger. But number 91, Jonathan Morris got a Timon Mitchell. Well, that was a little while ago, but yeah, Timon Mitchell has been in TCU for the last 2 years. But number 91, Nicholas Harris. I think you got it right, my man. Nicholas Harris. That is Peyton Woodring, the nation's number one kicker of a year ago, out of the state of Louisiana. Keeping things rolling right now. Tony Todor's got it right as well. Number 2 on our quick five. Can you tell me either of the 2 freshman Bulldogs that wear number 0? 2 freshmen. One of them got a touchdown on Saturday. Pause for dramatic effect. Daniel Bailey, that's right. Roderick Robinson II. Justin Sisk comes in there. Sherrod Rockmore, Dan Fox, Dan Bailey. Yeah, everybody knows who the running backs are, right? Nobody knows about the kickers, but everybody knows who the running backs are. Roderick Robinson. Now, also, there's a technicality here. The other number 0, who actually had 3 tackles for Georgia on Saturday, was Troy Bowles. Troy Bowles, yep. I see Adam Butts had it right. Troy Bowles actually had 3 tackles, got some special teams work, got some safety, got some linebacker work late in the game as well. There you have it. I'm going to go one more. I think we've gotten to 5, but one more on our kind of quick 5 takes. We're playing Name That Number, Name That Dog. I'm going to give you the jersey number. You tell me who it is. The last one I'm going to talk about, let's get interesting here. You're going to hear his name again. Number 33. Who is number 33? Freshman Bulldog. Curtis Vincent got it right. Previous answer about 0. It's funny how David Riddle got it right. CJ Allen. It's kind of funny. Darnell Washington, Agent 0, goes off the NFL. And I think you have to put the 2 number 0s together on the 2023 team in order to get as big of a human being as Darnell Washington. But that's your quick 5 takes right here. We've already started one part of our big 5 where we started talking about the Chris Cole decision, making his decision, the number 56 overall player in the country, making his decision on Sunday after he gets back from his University of Tennessee official visit. Going to decide on Sunday. I think this is the guy. He wants to be a doctor. 6'3", 185, played safety a year ago. And now this year he's playing at linebacker for his high school, 6'4", about 220, 225. Really impressive player. Could play some safety if he needed to in a pinch for the Dogs. Could play some outside linebacker, rush the passer. Could be an in-the-box linebacker. Could be an outside-the-box linebacker as well. The second name I'm going to bring up, guys, in our Big 5, number 2, is it's the second kind of commitment decision to pay attention to. Junior Baker, I'm trying to. I'm on Restream right now that supposedly is giving me all of the YouTube comments. I've mostly seen a lot of Facebook comments though. So good point on that. Yep, a lot of Facebook points so far, but I guess the YouTube feed questions are coming in. Comments are coming in right now because I've got a kind of a heads up display for all you gamers out there where I've got a camera, I've got a countdown, I've got titles, and I've got like this right-hand column here is basically feeding all the comments as they're made. But no, Alan Verboncic, CJ Allen was number 33. CJ Smith out of Apopka, Florida was actually the big wide receiver who's got 10.5, 10.4, 10.3 speed in the 100 meters. The second one is Ethan Barbour. 4-star junior tight end. He was at Georgia's annual cookout. Georgia's one of his final schools, South Carolina, Ohio State. He is set to make his decision on September the 22nd. He is the nation's number 4 tight end for the 2025 class. Georgia, there they go, looking after, trying to get another tight end. Everybody knows how Todd Hartley likes to work early, likes to get his up. I think we've got a slide with Ethan Barbour's he had a tweet. He tweeted it out. I believe it was yesterday, September the 22nd. Look at the schools there he's choosing from. Alabama, Auburn, Georgia, Ohio State, and South Carolina. Alpharetta High School, he's in state. And I know there's a very strong chance that Georgia might win that recruitment right there, simply because the Dogs have recruited him hard. They've got a lot of the things that he's looking for, and then also Barbour. It was funny. I don't know if you guys remember the videos I showed you of the cookouts of the cookout, in late July, but the guy leading the kind of the water balloon race and the water race and the funnel race was Ethan Barbour, kind of already taking a leadership role a little bit with the tight end room in Athens. So very impressive player right here. The third thing we're going to talk about on our Before the Hedges Big Five right now is we're going to discuss I'm catching some questions right now. I saw something about Ryan Wingo, guys. Ryan Wingo is a strict NIL recruit. And I think Georgia is definitely not in it with players that are strict NIL recruits. Guys, 1 second. Hold the phone right there. 1 second. Thought we were going to get a Peaches appearance, but we'll try and work on that a little bit later. Back and forth. Nate Frazier's not playing a lot, man. Feature back is Jordan Davis in Mater Dei. Nate Frazier hadn't gotten a lot of carries, hadn't gotten like a feature role. And that's one thing to think about with Nate Frazier. Really, even last year, he was kind of the co number 1 back in Mater Dei High School as well. Next up is we're going to talk about Elijah Griffith. Number 2 overall prospect in the country. I just put a story up this afternoon on DawgNation. Has anybody gotten a chance to read it yet? Hopefully somebody's read it, but one of the things I thought that was interesting about Elijah Griffith is he loves himself some Olive Garden. He thinks his coach told me it's like his favorite place in the world to kind of have a meal. And listen to this, guys. Elijah Griffith is going to go to Texas, Alabama on Saturday, Georgia, South Carolina next Saturday. And Georgia, South Carolina, to me, kind of feels like the 2 schools that are really standing out for him right there. He wants to be a finance major. He wants to be a business major. His education will come first in his college decision. Then the following week, he's going to go to Florida State, Clemson. You talk about a guy that's going to see some football games in the month of September. Elijah Griffith, the nation's number 2 overall prospect in the country, is going to be that dude. 6'5 plus, 285. I think he's a 3 tech. I think that's just what he's going to be. He's not fast enough, not that elite fast enough guy to play out on the edge. Really impressive young man. I'm going to show you guys some videos soon about just kind of how he handles himself. He's got a great family around him. This is a young man, number 2 overall prospect in the country, that will go to school, represent Savannah Christian very well. Lots of folks in the Savannah Christian program told me that. And then he's going to get out of practice and he's going to go work with a personal trainer after practice. And then he's going to come home and then he's going to work on his books, rinse, wash, repeat. The number one focus for Elijah Griffith will be the education. His uncle talked to me about that, Lamont Griffith, very strongly, how this football stuff is great, but they don't want him to be 45, 48 years old, 37 years old without a big boy degree and a great future. So I think that's one of the things to look at there. I think we got some pictures of Elijah Griffith. I want to show you guys like kind of what he looks like. He was playing Marist High this past weekend. Big program, a state title contender in Atlanta. And I loved how he just kind of rolled with the punches for a second because, like, Marist, for the first time, they chop blocked. They went at his knees. They sent two guys at him. And he's just like, all right, this is what it is. Let's make it do what we do. Played pretty well. He had a couple flash plays. Not going to be that guy that looks like, although he had like 14 sacks a year ago, 13 sacks the year before that. He's a guy that would be an interior defensive line guy for Georgia. He wants to enroll early. I also had a chance to talk to Micah DuBose, Georgia's 5-star defensive tackle in the 2025 class, about Elijah. And the only rep that Micah DuBose lost at Georgia's camp was to Elijah. He just says he told me he's a great prospect, a great player, the type of guy that can not only make him better, but the entire Georgia offensive line better. You just look at him right there. He's got remarkable focus, demeanor, character, composure for his age group, his age level. So really interesting. You know, I try to give you guys what the top targets look like in 2025 once a month. And if I had to put together kind of my feeling right now about the 2025 top targets, it might go David Sanders first, Juan Gaston second, and then maybe Elijah Griffin third. Certainly, I think, you know, I'm just going to give you guys a little bit of a hint here. I don't really see Georgia grabbing a big-time running back in the 2025 class because they've done so well in the 2024 class. The same goes there with the what Georgia will do at quarterback. I don't expect them to get a big name quarterback in the 2025 class simply because they've got two of the nation's best quarterbacks in 2024 in Ryan Puglisi, who's playing great right now. Ryan Puglisi, and then Dylan Raiola, who's playing great right now. Ryan Puglisi will actually open up his season this weekend for Avon Old Farms in Connecticut as well. Another thing to talk about, perhaps the biggest recruiting visitor from this past weekend on Saturday was Zion Grady. Zion Ziggy Grady. He actually went and saw Georgia for the UT Martin game. He plans to come back for the South Carolina game. Anytime you can get Georgia can get the nation's number one edge, a 5-star out of Charles Henderson Troy in Alabama. That's a very good thing. I think I'm counting up with him right now. That's 6, maybe 4. That South Carolina trip visit will be his 6th visit to check out the Dogs this year. And that's pretty amazing since he only got offered by the Dogs in January of 2023. I got some pictures of him kind of watching. Here's one little nugget I really liked about Zion Grady. The two things he's looking for, there he is with Kirby. This is from back in the spring. Got a Jordan tracksuit. I know we got a lot of Jordan folks here on the feed that like the shoe game going on. They like their Jordans. They like their retros. They like their, they're really OGs. They like their patent brands. They like their North Carolina looks. But Zion Grady's a guy, and this is probably the biggest thing for me. I've seen a lot of 5-stars and a lot of blowouts in Atlanta for the Dogs in Athens, and I've seen a lot of 5-stars kind of check out, especially against the cupcake opponent. Apologies to any UT Martin Skyhawk boosters on the feed here tonight, on the Before the Hedges program tonight. But this is the fourth quarter. I think Georgia's up by 35 points. I think it's on that drive when there was the curious, interesting, upon further review call for the one-handed juggle touchdown on A.J. Harris. And I looked and saw Zion Grady, and I saw him really plugged in. And normally when that happens, it tells me two things. One, really loves the Dogs, really loves the chance to play for Georgia, the opportunity there. He doesn't take it lightly. And the second thing it told me was listen, like we've got a guy here. Hey, you're going to put a big time college football team in front of him with big time scheme and players getting it after it with big time talent on the field. Guy needs to measure up. Guys need to see how good he is. Need to see how he plays compared to the guys on Saturdays that are already how they're being coached to play. I think Zion Grady was in the third or fourth row up, and he was like this. He was like, you know how your dog's looking at you when the food plates are coming out, or they hear the dog food kind of rumbling around coming out of the pantry. They hear the way that bag or that snap lid comes up and down. They know what it sounds like. Zion Grady was really plugged in there, and that's something you really like to see from a five-star prospect. That to me, he's coming back to Georgia for a reason, taking that many trips. Phil Rogers, I see a question. Not a big weekend in recruiting, unless you want to call Georgia potentially landing the number 56 overall prospect in the 2024 class, beating out schools like Tennessee, Miami, Virginia Tech, and USC for Chris Cole. I think that would call that a big recruiting weekend. As far as visits go, it's Ball State. It's a noon game. It's going to be really hard to get folks into Athens. I think it's going to be another one of those weeks where really the horde of people visiting Athens right now are 2026, 2027 type of recruits to take their kind of first place to check out Athens. Zion Grady, folks, was the number 4 item here on our Before the Hedges Big Five right there. And then number 5 is the freshman report. I talked to you about this. I was sitting there putting this list together, and I put together like 5 names I thought that were the 5 names that really stood out for me in terms of the freshmen or true freshmen that played for the Dogs on Saturday. I was putting that list together, and I was getting it into our producer, Kaylee Mansell, to get everything ready for showtime. And I thought to myself, you know what? Probably need to include that guy. Probably need to include that guy as well. But let's take a look at the list. I got the list right here of the guys that I thought were the freshmen that played the best. And I'll give you guys a synopsis why. And if you guys, hey,
Well, it looks like we lost Jeff, and obviously I did not prepare to come on here, so I guess I will keep Before the Hedges going until he gets back. Hey everyone, I know that some people thought I was Carvel in the comments. Not today. I produce Jeff's show, and I got the chance to meet some of you guys at Arlo's last week, as well as game day. So just wanted to say it was awesome to meet you guys. Jeff looks like he's back on. Sorry for the disconnect, but yeah, I'm gonna let Jeff come back on. I know that's who y'all want to see. Awesome. Okay.
Kaylee, what's up? We back?
We're
I love
back.
it.
I think I did as best as I could, but I told him I was like, obviously I did not prepare to see you guys. So thanks for loving me for who I am. Thanks.
No, listen, everybody's already saying, look at this. Look at these feeds. Hey, Kaylee. Way to keep it going, Kaylee. Hey, girl. CK Emmett fan said Jeff got better looking with a smile. Phil Rogers wants to know, what do you think about Big Baby Hall? Well, Phil, this is what I'm going to tell you about. I put together a list of guys that I thought were the kind of top guys I saw that stood out for me from the freshman realm. I talked about while I was gone and not even knowing you guys weren't around. I led off my list with kind of Peyton Woodring. And he's not even on this list right now that I sent to Kaylee before our showtime. But for me, Peyton was a guy that starts as Georgia as a true freshman. I believe he kicks both of his field goals. He kicks 5 extra points. So, you see a guy right there that in his first game for the Georgia Bulldogs scores 11 points. Currently, I believe the leading scorer on the Georgia team. And he is a guy that I think stood out really well. But the list of guys, I think the 2 biggest contributors up to this point outside of Peyton Woodring among the freshman class, I see 2. I see Jordan Big Baby Hall, and then I also see CJ Allen. Now, very interesting watching CJ Allen. He was in there for the Dogs on the second series of the game. On the second series of the game. You guys still got me? Everybody with me here? Everybody with me here? Sometimes Randy Hall, the question is, does David Sanders play offensive tackle or offensive guard? Randy, he's an offensive tackle. Could probably be a 5-star tight end or a 5-star defensive end as well. But the guys I thought were kind of, number one, C.J. Allen. Number two, Jordan Big Baby Hall. First of all, C.J. Allen, he had more snaps than any other linebacker in the Georgia rotation. He had 33 in his first game. Kirby Smart has been praising him all week already with what's going on with his kind of press conference feedback. My colleague Connor Riley had a story about C.J. Allen that went up earlier this week as well. But told you guys, this was a guy that just really impressed me athletically, impressed me the way he absorbs the playbook, how ball matters to him, how he's got a pretty rare from the great – it's only from like the really great ones, really strong drive, really great determination right there. But C.J. Allen, I think, is going to play a lot of great football for Georgia as well. The second was Jordan Big Baby Hall. The third one that stood out to me was a freshman, redshirt freshman wide receiver, C.J. Smith, out of Mount Dora High School in Apopka, Florida. He had a great day. He was kind of your fantasy football leader, I guess, among the Georgia Bulldogs that were out and about. He had let me see if I can pull up the receiving totals. He had 2 catches for 57 yards, including a 47-yard explosive where he really showed out his – he was a state champion in the 100 and 200 in the state of Florida when he was in high school. So he really has that rare gear as well. Another guy that stood out for me when you start talking about the freshman that I thought really already from game one is really showing that, you know, that guy's going to have a great future in Athens. Roderick Robinson, he was a guy that scored his first touchdown. Number 0, we've talked about him already, out of San Diego, California. Big physical back, especially 5'10", about 235. The way Georgia's running back room right now is depleted of their frontline personnel. I think he's a guy that's going to get a chance, especially the injury to Branson Robinson. He's going to get a chance to shine maybe more than he initially thought he might. And then the final guy that I thought really stood out for me was A.J. Harris. He played a lot of snaps. I think he had as many snaps as anybody at corner. Of course, he got beat for a touchdown, but he got a lot of really good action, a lot of teachable tape, a lot of just that feeling like, hey, I know what he can do now. I know what he can do under the lights. Now let's coach him up and get a lot better. Which freshman do you all guys want to see more of in week 2? That's a good question right there as well. Hey, Randy Payne, I saw that, man. Good seeing you, man. I actually got a picture of Randy Payne and one of his friends. Him and one of his friends were having fun in the stands as well. Thank you, Doghouse Lawn Care, as well. Let me see. Trying to keep up with some of the comments, some of the questions right there. Noah Sheldon's got a comment that Kirby will start Christopher C. Jones over Justin Williams next year. That would be an interesting thing because I think Christopher C. Jones can really play. Randy Hall wanted to know what position group I was most disappointed with the most on Saturday. I guess you would just expect the offensive line. I know they were being outnumbered. I think UT Martin was sending like 5 or 6 guys, and Georgia was trying 5, 6, 7 guys, and Georgia was trying to block them with 5. I just would have expected that dominant senior head-laden guys that have started 2 or 3 seasons for Georgia. In some situations, I would have expected them to maybe gotten a little bit more of a push, especially near the goal line, maybe freed up a little bit more in the run game. Of course, they did keep Carson Beck pretty clean. Brian Lindsay wants to see Raylan Wilson. Yeah, Raylan Wilson is not very far behind C.J. Allen, especially prior to the hyperextended knee. Georgia, I think, really has 2 future all-SEC linebackers at the minimum in their 2024 recruiting class that are already getting some action there as freshmen. All right, guys, that was your big 5. We kind of went over a couple things. Freshmen that really impressed me: C.J. Allen, Jordan Big Baby Hall, A.J. Harris, C.J. Smith, Roderick Robinson, Troy Bowles, who also had 3 tackles. We mentioned him earlier today, and then also Peyton Woodring as well. So Dogs are in good hands. The Dogs freshmen, I think they played 17, according to my numbers right now, that they played 17 true freshmen in that game against UT Martin. Pretty impressive when they only signed 26 a year ago as well. Let me see. Now it's time for the part of our show everybody loves, where Miss Mansell gets to crack her knuckles and show off her graphics. Let's take a look with kind of our weekly staples, and I'll try to make sure you guys got a question. Feel free to pop it in your feeds there, and I'll do my best to get to them as well. Let's start off with a class breakdown, what the commits and positions look like. What we have on there's the graphic. So we certainly know we're still live. Miriam, how are you doing tonight, Miriam? Hope you're doing great. Let me see. What can I tell you about this? Dwight Frazier's coming back from a kind of a sore ankle, coming back from one of them. Nate Frazier's got kind of hobbled right now, not getting a lot of primary action there at Modern Day. Nikar, I'm hoping to go see him this weekend. He continues to really just go crazy right now for Colquitt County High School. Another big game this weekend with Lee County. Nikar right now is playing as well as anyone in the Georgia commitment class. Jaden Riddell, Colton Heinrich. Colton Heinrich and Jaden Riddell got to see their first Georgia games ever as commitments on Saturday, so that was pretty good. They were kind of both blown away. Colton Heinrich said he was blown away as well. It was really fun watching recruits, and I guess this was Jaden Riddell's turn to do this on Saturday, but it's really fun watching recruits when they kind of get exposed to Georgia's great football traditions. And I'm talking about the trumpet player before the game and from the upper level. And these young men, they kind of heard and they started looking around and they're like, oh yeah, let me find them up there. And then when the Go Dogs cheer that was led by Sony Michelle this time, where it was like, Georgia Bulldogs, Georgia Bulldogs. And you saw I kind of noticed Jaden Riddell trying to follow that and kind of soaking it all in, soaking it all up. But really cool to see that. Marcus Harrison, guys, he had his first games this past weekend. He was just throwing dudes around. I really enjoyed the chance to watch his film. Marquez, Big Easy, he's another guy whose film looks great. It's just nobody gets as excited about offensive line film. Maybe I get excited about offensive line film, but not so easy to quantify, saying Nikar had another 3 touchdowns as well. Let me see. I hope you guys saw the story. Let me tell you one quick story, because I know everybody doesn't read the stories, especially over the weekend, because everybody's traveling. I kind of think it was really cool seeing, Dylan Raiola had a great game against North Cobb, played very well, but Dylan was a guy that hung out with Daniel Calhoun, and he was kind of around Colton Heinrich in the front row, Daniel Calhoun, and Malachi Tolliver, the other offensive line commitment in the class. And I don't know if I've ever seen this before, especially from a 5-star quarterback or 5-star quarterback commit. But Dylan was going up right before the game to the recruiting lounge. And one of the things he did is he came back down with like several bottles of water in his hands. And what he did is he kind of shared them with the other commitments down there in his row. I thought that was really cool. He got a chance to, he gave some water bottles to the guys around him. Some of those guys will be blocking for him. Some of those guys will be keeping him upright in the future. I thought that was a really classy, something so simple but so telling about what Dylan Raiola is all about, besides throwing great balls, besides being a 5-star, besides having a really big arm as well. I thought that was really cool. I thought it was really cool how the Georgia 2023 team all was like slapping the head or dapping up Daniel Calhoun in the West End Zone bleachers. And Kirby Smart came over there and hugged Daniel Calhoun's family, and they hugged him back. It was really genuine there. I wrote about that over the weekend from the UT Martin game. And then at the end of the game, Amarius Mims came over and hugged Daniel Calhoun's family as well. So you really saw Georgia past, present, and future, team member, starter, head coach, how once you're a part of the Georgia football family, you really are part of the family. And they really were showing some love to Daniel Calhoun and his family as well. I thought that's the type of stuff when you're there for the game and you're there to see who showed up. But I always try to watch how the recruits are fitting in, what they look like, how they're enjoying and kind of embracing Georgia football tradition. So I got a pretty good eyeful and we're able to give you guys a pretty strong report about what's going on with a lot of those guys and how they're fitting in and really falling in love, I guess, with being a dog. Those are your offensive guys. Let's talk about Drew Miller, the only guy that's running the ball and throwing the ball and punting the ball. We talked about him last week, that the better he plays on offense as quarterback, the less he punts, and that's the best thing he can do on a football field. But Drew Miller out of Iowa certainly is a big-time difference maker. I saw somebody ask me a question about Carson Beck passing yards. I'm trying to be very interactive here on this show as we kind of scaled down this week and we're outside the studio. But I think Carson is going to throw for about 325, 350 on Saturday. I think he's going to be a regular 300, 350 type passer for the Dogs. They have so much weapons and firepower on the overall offense, especially when you start getting guys like Ladd McConkey and Marcus Rosenby-Jack Saint back. And then maybe later on the season, maybe 4 or 5 more weeks from now, you might get Lawson Lucky back. Georgia's going to eventually have weapons. Kendall Milton, Dejon Edward. I think you're going to see what a fully operational Death Star is going to look like. CJ Smith's going to keep getting better. Yazeed Haynes is going to keep getting better. That guy caught a pass in his first college game as well out of North Penn High School in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Anthony Evans got in the game as well. I think the more Georgia can get those playmakers out there and get them kind of battle tested, I think you're going to see a lot more from Dylan Bell, a lot more from Arian Smith. So there's a lot of fun to be had for as well. And then your defensive guys in the class right now. Let me see. Joseph Jonia is still doing great. Justin Williams looks like he's a heat seeker on every play. Christopher Jones had a pick 6 and a sack and more yardage on the grounds this past Friday night. Quintavious Johnson, we've written about him. Ellis Robinson, DeMello Jones. DeMello Jones was in Athens again. On Saturday. He was part of that. Let me look at the defensive side real quickly. Justin Green was there on Saturday. DeMello Jones was there on Saturday as well. And then on the offensive side, you had Dylan Raiola, Colton Heinrich, Malachi Tolliver, and you also had Daniel Calhoun. So you had maybe about a good third of the class there on Saturday. That's your class breakdown. Let's go to Kaylee's map. That's what I always call it each and every week. Kaylee's map. The recruiting snapshots. Georgia still's number 1 nationally. 16 guys on offense. Let me see if I can tell you something different about this list this week. The 26 commitments is nice. The 5 stars, Georgia has 4. They're really chasing about 3 or 4 names left for the rest of the class. Guys, what's happening there? Pay close attention. The top 150 commits. Georgia has 17 top 150 commits. I think the next closest school has 11 now. That would be Ohio State. Look at those 11 top 100 commits. It's a really strong class. It's a really strong class with elite talent. And when you're looking at where this class currently sits, it is already really kind of right there with the overall top 150 type players. It's already overall with the one Georgia signed in 2018, which everybody knows that class fell apart. Justin Fields went one way. Cade Mays went one way. Luke Ford went one way. Otis Reese went one way. So Georgia lost a lot out of that class, but Brenton Cox as well. But you certainly see a class here that's kind of recruited differently, where there are more Georgia guys more likely to stick. And I think that bodes well for the future of Georgia football as well. And we mentioned top targets, and I still kind of want to keep it the way they kind of already are right now. There's really like 4 names. Probably, I think there's really just 3 right now. I think Georgia will identify flip target or 2. I think they will also identify a player that maybe, just explodes their senior year, plays very well, and maybe goes from – because you got to remember, guys, Kyron Jones is a great example. Kyron Jones, at this time a year ago, was going to commit to North Carolina State. He was leaning towards committing to North Carolina State, and Georgia eventually flipped him with a late offer as he kept playing better and better in his senior year. I thought it was pretty funny. Did everybody hear what Kirby Smart said after the game, where he's like, he was just in the right place at the right time, got a tip. He talked about how he compared, he thought he was a good player when he got tip balls on interceptions, and he's really, really just kind of fortuitous being there. The one thing he did say about Kyron Jones that makes him stand out is that 10-4, 10-3 speed as well. Alan Verbonic, man, I'm glad your technical difficulties are behind you. Taylor Russell says they'll be at the Carolina game, your daughter's first Georgia game, so hopefully the Dogs won't blow it. David Wayne Carroll, Georgia certainly has a great shot at Chris Cole, who took last-minute trips to USC and Tennessee. Let me hear about this, guys. If I'm going to know, let's be friends here a little bit. I got a question for you. This is the time to drop your questions right now, live Q&A here on DawgNation's Before the Hedges. But if you guys have a question, feel free to share it with me. But I got a question for you guys. I want to know how many of you guys that are on the feed right now, and you can say, you can give me a dog emoji, something simple, a dog emoji. How many of you guys have already either planned to be on the DawgNation invasion of the Tennessee River or have already booked your tickets for the DawgNation invasion of the Tennessee River? Matthew Goodwin, I think that's Sammy Brown is not a guy that's going to flip based on Clemson's season. I don't see Clemson falling apart and Sammy Brown wanting to become a dog. That's not the reason why Sammy Brown chose Clemson over Georgia, because he kind of, let's face it, he kind of probably had a good indication that Georgia was going to win just as much as Clemson, if not more so, in 2024. He just liked the fit. He liked the thought of going to play for Dabo. He liked the feeling of that program a little bit better than a very strong feeling there to play for Georgia. He told me after he made the decision that it was one of the hardest things he's ever had to do was to tell that to Coach Glenn Schumann. So I don't see a Sammy Brown flip no matter how many games Clemson loses. And the way Clemson played, I think Clemson might lose a couple more as this season goes along, not just Florida State, not just maybe a team like Wake Forest as well. But I think Clemson's got a lot of problems to work out. I think it's their program seems to me, it seems like it's a national cliche, but the combination of not having the elite quarterback that has powered them. I actually like Cade Klubnik a lot. I think he was a dazzling player. He was probably the best quarterback in the class when he came out. He redshirted. Played a little bit under DJ Uiagalelei last year, but I think he's a winner. I think he's an all-ACC type player. But I think the biggest thing is you take away that all-American type player at quarterback, and then you have the loss of those two coordinators that had supported Dabo so well. You also have Dabo not wanting to kind of get in the business of NIL, not kind of wanting to get in the business of the transfer portal mantra, transfer portal craze. So I think Clemson football is kind of getting attacked by a lot of sides where things aren't what they used to be during their glory years for that. Phil Rogers, man, I'm sorry about that, man. I hate to hear about that. We'd love to have you on there. Randy Hall, I think McKell is actually Cam. You're talking about Cam McKell. McKell is actually going to go visit Colorado this week. I think McKell. I think McKell would be a great fit because he's kind of got that Travis Hunter two-way play both ways type element to his game as well. Before we wrap up, guys, let me tell you this. I've got a prediction for Ball State this week. I think the score with Ball State's probably going to feel something like 48-3. I think 55-7, 58-10, something like that. I think the Dogs will kind of matriculate down the field a little bit easier. They'll throw the ball a little bit better. They'll get some more explosives. That's the type of game I see on Saturday. But I'm the guy that sits here and does Before the Hedges every Wednesday night. What do I know? What about you guys? You guys have a prediction for the game on Saturday? I'd love to hear what you guys think. Lots of people see that. I think the line is 42, 43 in their life. You should see my DawgNation colleagues, hemming and hawing about, that's so much points. That's so many points. Kirby Smart doesn't like to put up a lot of points like that. Georgia, they have all the facts and figures, and they say Georgia really doesn't against kind of those non-power five type teams. Georgia doesn't really like to put a big number on them and everything else like that. But I really think the Dogs have a chance to just do what they do, not really try to do too much, not really try to not really try to trot out the Rocky Road or the Neapolitan chocolate chip mint cookie dough unique wrinkles and flavors to their offense. They can keep it kind of vanilla, I think, and put up a lot of points on the board against Ball State. I know Ball State's got a better program than UT Martin. They're used to playing some of the bigger names. They play Kentucky. I think Georgia just is going to make progress. I've always felt from watching football at all levels, especially with young teams, especially with great teams. When this season starts, I think some of the greatest progress a team makes is from game 1 to game 2, because everybody just kind of gets that newness out of the way. They start playing football. They've been coached up a little bit. They know what speed to play at, and I think the guys around them also play better as well. So just football looks a whole lot better once week 2, week 3 gets here. One thing I also want to hear about from you guys, I know a lot of folks are going to be interested in Alabama versus Texas. I got Alabama in that game. I think the line is like 7 points, but I really like Alabama to be able to take care of business against the Longhorns. See a lot of folks 66-0. Winfred Sign Springs got a 63-10. Let those boys score, says Miriam. Miriam speaks. Everybody in DawgNation listens. Let those boys score. They've worked hard all spring, summer, and fall. They deserve it. Wes Atkinson says 52-6. Al Chandler says he'll put his bass boat in for a couple of overflow on the cruise if they run out of tickets. The Tennessee River. It's kind of funny. Really cool. That's one of the things, the riverboat, I'm looking forward to seeing everybody out there. I'm looking forward to probably that ended up being probably the coolest DawgNation event we've ever done, especially before a game. I know every time I've been to a game at Rocky Top in Neyland, I've always thought, man, how stinking cool would it be to be there and to be tailgating before the game and to kind of make your way to the stadium, not having to go through parking lots or parking decks or, just a crawl of traffic. You could actually just come up in the boat. I always thought that would be so slick and so smooth. And everybody, there's still some tickets available. We're all going to get a chance to do that as well. Guys, that has been Before the Hedges, brought to you by Kroger. I'm Jeff Sentell. You guys know what to do. You got a tailgate on Saturday. You know what that means. You got to go run to Kroger on the way, night before, fill that thing up so you guys can break that all out and everybody can get there in Athens town by about 9:30 at the latest. I know a lot of people like to text my phone and send me pictures of their tailgates in Athens right around the sun. And they're cracking open their first one, or they're having their first bacon, egg, and cheese or whatever. They like to gloat about how they were the first ones around their tailgate spot. But folks, you only get 6 or 7 of these. And I think one of the things that is truly special is like when you open up these press releases, when you look at these stats, you see the polls come out and you continue to see the Georgia Bulldogs ranked #1 in the country. I think that is really special. I think that's something this fan base should probably never, ever take for granted, and to realize how hard this program has worked to get there. And if, someone would have told any of us 5-10 years ago what the Dogs would be doing right now, I think we wouldn't have believed it. I think we would have said we would be feeling too greedy to even dream this up the way the program is right now. I say this a lot. These last 2 teams have won the national championships. I think the next few teams for Kirby Smart are going to be more talented teams, deeper teams, and let's see where the chips fall with everything like that. Miriam, I'm right. I don't really, the noon kicks, that's always tough as well. But guys, this is where we wrap up the show. Remember, take care of Kroger, because Kroger takes care of DawgNation, and then Kroger's groceries take care of you. They're going to make your tailgate shine like a 5-star tailgate each and every Saturday, whether you're coming out of an RV, you're coming out of an SUV, or you're just coming out of your back porch because you got a place in Athens, whatever you want to say. Look forward to seeing everybody in Athens on Saturday. Folks, that has been your Before the Hedges, from a little nostalgic from the Woodstock Bureau here of DawgNation. I'm Jeff Sentell. That has been your intel. Everybody be well out there, be blessed, and we'll see everybody again on the pages of DawgNation.com. God bless you, everybody out there. Drive safe. We'll see everybody in Athens again on Saturday, and you guys have yourself a great, great weekend.